Okay, so we've talked a lot about commitment. You already know that I'm keen on you actually being committed to practical growth in your career. But how do you do it? How do you do it? How do you take those big picture aspirations and actually turn them into habits that you can develop which are going to improve your career? So the first thing to appreciate about habit formation is that you need to do it gradually. I cannot go from 0 to 500 overnight. It will take too much effort and I will burn out. So let me give you a practical example. When you were a child, a young child, and you were learning how to brush your teeth, something you do very easily now, as a child was much less easy to do because you needed to learn the motor skills and you needed to practice and you needed to get in the habit of doing it in the morning and in the evening and at lunchtime if you brush your teeth 3 times a day. You needed to get into the system where it wasn't something that someone needed to remind you about, someone didn't need to hold your hand and help you make the right motions. Because when you were still learning how to do it, it took enormous amounts of brain power in order for you to actually do that relatively simple task. But now that you have been doing it for years and years and years consistently, it is second nature. It is easy. Your brain doesn't need to occupy itself with all of the many tasks quite so rigorously as it did when you were first learning how. This is how habit formation works. You cannot rely solely on willpower because willpower is a finite resource, okay? So if you want to implement lasting change, no matter what skill you are looking at as we work through this process, then you have to embrace the concept that you need to implement it as a habit in your professional career. So how are you going to do that? The first thing to appreciate is that smaller steps are always easier than bigger steps. And I'm going to give you a practical example shortly. But it is much easier to implement a habit of getting into the office 5 minutes earlier than it is to getting into the office 2 hours earlier. One of them will probably wreck you, the other is perfectly manageable. After 5 minutes, you might do 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, 15. After 15, 30. It becomes easier and easier and easier as time goes on. So smaller steps are easier than larger steps. Take the marathon example. If you wanted to train to run a marathon, you're not going to do it simply by getting up one day, putting on your boots and running a whole marathon in one go. You're going to collapse and you're not going to make it. And you're going to go, well, that's impossible. I just can't do it. No amount of willpower will get you from running never to running a marathon instantly. So if you were going to run a marathon, you need to come up with a system to work your way up to marathon level training. And that's exactly how you should approach the formation of any of these skills that we're going to be discussing in this series. If you want to develop a better approach to your file management, for example, you need to look at the component pieces of your file management, pick a small part of it and go, right, how can I work on this part right now? And then do that for 5 days, 7 days, 10 days, 20, until it is second nature. Then layer on the next component. Maybe it is something as simple as this. At the end of each day, ensure that there are no pieces of paper on your desk. This is a common aspiration for many lawyers. Some of them achieve it, some of them never care to try. But maybe that is frustrating you because in the mornings you get in and you've got all this paperwork on your desk and that throws your whole day out of kilter. So maybe the best way to address that is at the end of each day to gather up all the paper and then put it into your inbox. Now that's not dealing with it. You're not getting anything achieved except that your desk will be tidy. Maybe the next habit you need to then develop is in the morning going through all of that paper to ensure that you have sorted it out appropriately. Maybe it's email management. Maybe you can never, ever, ever get your inbox down to 0. How are you going to incorporate a system of dealing with that? There are many practical skills that can be used in order to do it. The main problem that people find is what they say is, oh, I've just got to get through all these emails. But they never think about a system or a strategy to be able to get it done. So, habit implementation involves a few key steps. Firstly, identify the big picture thing that you want to accomplish, whatever it may be. Then, break it down into tiny, tiny pieces. The smaller the better, because it will be less of a burden to start implementing these. Implement a piece. Do it every day, whatever it is. Do it every day for at least a week, maybe 3 weeks. It depends on how difficult it is for this to become second nature. If you need to, depending on your personality type, you might find it helpful to have someone hold you accountable. Find a colleague, find a relative, find a friend, find someone who can go, "Yo, Chris, get that damn paper off your desk." Maybe that's going to help you. So, tiny, tiny pieces every day. Then add the next one. This one's second nature. It doesn't take as much effort anymore. Then add the next one. Then add the next one, and so on and so forth. You get the idea. This is not rocket science, but you need to be strategic about it. You can't hope to do it all in one go because you'll fail, and that's what happens most of the time. Break it down. Implement one habit. If you want to write a book, you can write a book 50 words at a time. If you want to do more marketing, you can do marketing one phone call at a time. But what we have a tendency to do is come up with this huge strategy and aspirational goals, and then it's too hard because we're too busy and we never get it done. I don't want that for you. Habit formation is the key. Do something small until it is so easy you can do it without thinking, because then you can move on to the next thing until you can do that without thinking, and so on and so on and so on and so on. And you will find that this is how you can layer up a huge amount of progress over a very short space of time.